So we've prepared an icebreaker for the three of you. I will start by asking, what was your dream job as a kid? And pass the mic over to you, Barry.
Dream job. So that's a tough one because I started my company Rusty Brick when I was a kid. My brother and I, we started when we were in high school. So I'm kind of living my dream job, So it's not like I wanted to go to NASA or be an astronaut or whatever. I like interned, I guess, at some over the summer, like some .com startups back in the day. And I'm like, I know I want to do this. So we started our own software company when we were in high school and still here. So
That's fantastic. I didn't know you started Rusty Brick while you're a kid. I mean, you're living the dream. You are living the dream. Aleyda, how about you?
So it was a mix. I think that I wanted to be many things, but one of the things were an adventurer type of person. So and this all came when I watched the Indiana Jones movies. Like it should be fun to travel and go through stuff and have adventures. So this is a type of I'll say anthropologist because I believe that he was an anthropologist, but it didn't even come to my mind to become that, but just to go on adventures like that. So yeah, I think that that was one of the funnest ones. Then I saw quite a few movies about hackers when I was young, and I was like, oh, it should be quite cool to hack things. But yeah, then I could see at the end of the movie that you could become actually like a little bit like into issues quite often due to that. So yeah, that was not necessarily a big of an appeal. But yes, adventure, I will say, was like the biggest one when I was a child.
Indiana Jones has such a soft spot in my childhood as well. Was always skeptical of the big shiny objects. Like I'm like, okay, no, it's got to be that rusty looking cup. Ethan, how about you?
I was deciding between being a comedy skit writer and a chef, and I chose neither, although I do tell funny jokes and I barbecue well.
I can attest to Ethan's barbecue. It's fantastic. He grills it up like I haven't seen before. All right, well, we have a few minutes in, and I'd say let's get this show on the road. We have not one, not two, but three phenomenal SEO experts for y'all to have a discussion with on everything that's been going on in Google search. Lately, it's a lot. The algorithms are in high volatility, high flux in terms of everything going on with large language models, search generative experience, and all of the updates happening with content-related changes. The experts, we have Barry Schwartz. Barry is a contributing editor to Search Engine Land and a member of the programming team for SMX Events. He owns Rusty Brick, a New York-based web consulting firm, and he also runs Search Engine Roundtable, a popular search blog on advanced SEM topics. Ethan is passionate about SEO because it has the potential to transform the quality of content we consume every day. He is the CEO of Graphite, a premier SEO and growth marketing agency, and has advised companies like TCV, Masterclass, Honey, Upwork, Notion, Webflow, Ticketmaster, Neiman Marcus, Thumbtack, and many more. Ethan is also an adjunct professor at IE Business School. I did not know that. Aleyda is an SEO consultant and founder of Orianti, a boutique SEO consultancy advising top brands worldwide. She is also a fantastic speaker and author. She shares the latest news and resources in SEO in her SEO FOMO newsletter. Definitely check it out and subscribe. Digital marketing and marketing FOMO, and organizes SEO FOMO meetup series, hosts the SEO FOMO chat forum, and provides SEO tips in the Crawling Mondays video series, a free SEO learning roadmap called Learning SEO. That's an addition. Aleyda clearly does quite a bit. So we got a stellar group, and we have a lot of things that has been going on with Google. Most recently, the updates, but I want to start us off by talking about Search Generative Experience. We have a recent report that says that, search engines like Google are about to release Search Generative Experience. What do you all think is going to be the impact that SGE is going to have on Google SERPs? And how do you think you can rank for or capitalize on the citations or how this is going to pan out? I'm going to pass the mic first to Barry.
Thank you. Got the mic. Yeah, so SGE, there's rumors that it will launch at Google I/O in May. Those rumors sound legit. The question is, how will it launch? And Wall Street's pressuring them to launch this SGE because they want Google to go more into AI. They're very, very big into AI, have been forever. And the issue is, if SGE launches, it seems like nobody's clicking on ads. It seems like nobody's clicking on publisher links. It seems like they got the shopping results somewhat right, but in terms of everything else, it seems like clicking on those citations and going to publisher websites or advertisers seems to be a major issue. So if Google does launch it at I/O, there's rumors from the Financial Times that says they might charge for certain AI features in search. I highly doubt that. I'd be surprised if Google charges for AI search features. But maybe they'll launch it for a limited subset of queries. Google has always said that most queries, majority of queries that people search for don't have ads. So maybe Google launches SGE for just the queries that don't have ads. I don't know, but it's going to be a major issue for both publishers and advertisers if SGE launches the way it is now, because Google's revenue is going to significantly drop if nobody's clicking on ads, and publishers are going to be really discouraged and not want to create content for SGE for the Google's AI bots to consume and to generate SGE answers in the future. So it's a little bit of a issue, but there's obviously lots of debate and controversy around what may happen and what will happen. So we just don't know, but we'll see.
Yeah, definitely there's the role on the impact on ads, and then also the user experience, right? Like this can wildly vary depending on the type of query. So for a lot of local oriented queries, the experience of the snapshot that is shown is quite repetitive to what is already shown anyway with search features, right? With the MacPack. And the same for a lot of other type of queries. So when you search for software, it's the same position 0 type of feature that is shown in the snapshot summary, while given a worse experience because the summary or the bullet points that mention the same tools that are already provided below are not even clickable, like the search features below, right? So in a lot of cases, it's quite repetitive. It's a worse experience, I will say. So I don't expect that Google will launch that as it is. Then on the other hand, we have also other scenarios in which it's a complementary experience. For example, when you're looking for a template to download something, an action-focused type of query, and the role of the SGE is to summarize, to give you a summary of an example, an SEO checklist. What does it include? But no, you really actually want to download that checklist, right? And you won't be satisfied by not that snapshot. So the risk of this type of snapshots that I have mentioned so far is that rather low in terms of the way that they can change the search behavior of the user or the click-through rate of the user. However, there are other set of queries, commercial-oriented ones for products, for retailers, for marketplaces, for e-commerce, in which they pretty much replicate a PDP or a PLP type of content that incentivizes you to click directly on the product that they are already showcasing, on the other hand, in the product carousels already for many of these same queries, but of course above the fold in this case, and they will keep you there and incentivize you to click on the products pages already showcasing the product knowledge panel, right? So for many of these queries, these are not only non-branded commercial product-related terms, but for branded ones, for many navigational queries, it's the same. So in those scenarios, I can definitely see how this will impact, or if this was selected to be released like it is right now, it will impact the traffic that many of these e-commerce, especially the well-known brand ones, are already attracting with their main categories, facet pages, that now will go to their PDPs, or they will be lost by all the competitors, by other players that are already doing a better job with their merchant feeds, optimizing really well their PDPs, etc., or structured data, etc. So the risk is wildly different. The one that I can see being like the biggest ones is in this last scenarios that I mentioned, and for that, what it is important is to understand, to do your own assessment, to go through the queries, like a good summary or a sample of queries of the most important terms across your customer journey, and see how the snapshot actually fulfills the need of the user. If there's any chance of you to highlight your visibility there in a better way than the existing one, but yes, I will say that let's see what happens, because as Barry mentioned before, the big question there is the impact in revenue for Google on one hand, and then on the other hand, I for a lot of these scenarios, I don't believe that they will be willing to release it as it is, because of the user experience that they provide, quite repetitive.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot to unpack there. But before I do, Ethan, you've been the quiet one so far. What are your thoughts here?
I don't expect significant impact, but I'm not sure. So Google will test new modules all the time. Some will stick, some won't stick, and they keep the ones that are engaged with the most. I would expect that in my experience, chat answers are sometimes better, other times not. But when they are useful, I would say that answer box is actually as useful, if not more useful, than most chat answers, and they already have that. So my expectation would be that SGE will be an evolution of answer box. It will show up with a similar frequency of answer box, which is not all the time. And the other thing is that, to someone's question about what will the click-through rate be in answer box, SGE. So right now, if you show up in answer box, you get twice the click-through rate as position 2. So showing up in answer box is actually good. You get more traffic if you show up in answer box. Now, if you get no clicks to show up in an SGE answer, I feel like there will be a wave of people opting out for their content to be used as part of large language models, which you saw with the New York Times. So, and then the last thing is, if you want to buy a camera or book a hotel, whether or not there's an SGE answer doesn't really fulfill your intent. It doesn't take money away from the companies that would be ranking for that. So for high intent, high revenue queries, I don't expect a lot of disruption. I expect disruption for more low intent informational type queries that answer box tends to show up for. And I expect it to be an evolution of answer box versus a complete disruption. I could be wrong, but that's my prediction.
Just because this is a webinar, I'm going to say you're wrong, just to just move things around. I mean, with CTR, click-through rates, I've outright asked Google to provide the data. They won't provide it for feature snippets either. And remember, when feature snippets launched, nobody wanted a feature snippet. And then when everybody had feature snippets and their feature snippets were removed, everybody wanted those feature snippets back. So you're right in that. It seems like feature snippets have made their way and people like those. And yeah, of course, I think the AI overviews, which is what Google's calling them, is the AI overviews will probably replace or supplement those feature snippet boxes in SGE. But it seems like those click-through rates, both in Google SGE AI overviews, as well as Bing Chat, form now known as Copilot in Bing Search, those click-through rates are really, really minor, or small. Bing was promised to launch in Bing Webmaster Tools to show us the click-through rate of the Bing Chat responses, the Copilot responses, and Bing did not do that. Instead, they released what the click-through rate is with Web and Bing Chat / Copilot, not Copilot, Bing Chat alone. So they were kind of sneaky with how they released it. And I asked Google numerous times straight to their VPs saying, why won't you show us the click-through rate? And they keep telling us, because it's a labs experiment and we don't have the data to show you yet. But yet, when I asked their PR team and them as well, they'll also say, well, we provide more links than we did previously because we're showing more links on the page. So you're telling us you're providing us more links, but yet you're not providing us the click-through rate because it's still a labs experiment. So don't tell us snippets of what's good and try to hold off what's bad because you're not going to go ahead and you're still telling us it's a lab experiment. I think that's kind of crazy. And I don't think you could actually opt out of SGE AI overviews right now. You could opt out of their language models for Gemini and other things, but you can't necessarily opt out of their SGE AI overviews right now. If you want to opt out, you have to go ahead and basically opt out your whole entire website across search, I believe. Maybe Google will extend that to other areas, but right now it's opt out of Gemini or opt out of search, and SGE is search. So you can't really opt out of SGE unless you opt out of all of search.
I agree with all that, except I think that because the click-through rate is so, I'm sure that the click-through rate is very low. Because it's so low, I think that there will be legislation where people can opt out over time, and there will be a wave of people wanting to opt out and opting out at some point in the future.
Let's hope that that's the case, as it happened with the feature snippets too. The thing here, and I believe that is actually a good way to call them for many of the scenarios, is like a little bit like a feature snippet in steroids, right? Especially when it's a summary of something, is the way that they are actually linking to the source pages, which I have to say is much better and much more prominent and visible than the one that they did at the beginning. However, it will be interesting to see what is the actual click-through rate on any of those top right carousels that they feature. The links many times depends a lot on the scenario, right? It can be quite hidden. Only one at the very end of a 3-paragraph summary. Other times is much better. So it changes a lot, and it's all the time being tested from what I can see. So let's see what happens. I definitely agree that if they show the links in a very prominent way, even as like with a mouse over, like other LLMs do, it would be much straightforward and easier to say, yes, like the click-through rate should be not as bad. But the way that they continue to showcase it and test it, it gives me a little bit of uncertainty, let's say, for many of those scenarios.
Absolutely. Yeah, we had a slew of questions around SGE featured snippets, opting in, opting out. I'm pretty sure we covered most of them. I think a very common question that, I think about in relation to SGE is how do you be that summarization? It's still very unclear. I think, it's something like as long as you're in the top 10 results of sorts. But then if you are the summarization, will you also get placement in the SERPs? How do y'all think about optimizing your content to be the search generative experience answer that you want to influence? Ethan.
I can jump in. Yeah, so I think it'll depend on the type of query, but 2 queries that I think are interesting, or 2 types. The first thing is if you do best X, like best shoes, then and you do that on Bing, they summarize listicles. So the shoes that show up the most frequently appear, and they'll link to the different listicles where they've seen that. And I would expect that any best X or browse type query, listicles in particular, will be something you could optimize for. The second thing is co-occurrence of 2 phrases. So if you want Notion to show up for project management, just optimize the number of co-occurrences on the web generally. So those are 2 things I'm thinking about. And then there's also there's retrieval augmented answers, and that is a search as part of an answer. It's not really clear to me how that will behave, and whether or not it's just show up in the top 10 and with no extra stuff, and you'll just sort of be part of the answer. But those are the 3 things I'm thinking about.
Yeah, whenever I think on this, it's like, indeed, there's a high correlation on the pages that already rank well, and for those queries anyway. So definitely, it's not about doing a single trick that will take you out of your way of what you already know is good to improve your content, relevance, authority, for the to connect with the way that the user search on one hand. Then on the other hand, we know that especially whenever a user search for broader terms, and the snapshot pretty much, or the AI overview incentivize the user to drill down, to specify further right away. So for example, if you search for women's shoes or women jeans, for example, it will show you a carousel with additional topics connected to the head term that you have just searched. So it will be for women's jeans, it will be women's skinny jeans or women's black jeans, for example. So it will incentivize more of this long tail type of query. So definitely I will say to have a better understanding on the search behavior you use through the customer journey, it might become more important for you to not only try to rank for the top terms, the head terms, the most popular ones, the more obvious ones that you have been focusing on all this time. Also, the bigger visibility that the more granular pages, in the case of e-commerce, the PDPs will tend to have, and a lot of traffic will shift there, that will have otherwise gone to category pages. So it gives you an extra incentive to go and optimize further for this product pages, product detail pages. So with structured data, with pros and cons, with better expert-driven descriptions and overviews for this content, for example. And then on the other hand, seeing what are the type of contents that indeed, it within the carousel, for example, what many of these snapshots are not necessarily shown showing the thumbnail many times. They are located why. Are you optimizing your image as well to be showcased there? Maybe they're not shown even in the traditional search results, but they are shown there. So trying to identify these patterns is not about a one-trick pony type of thing. It shouldn't, I wouldn't recommend you to take you out of what you already know that is good for users anyways, but to open up to further opportunities of additional topics, or giving more weight to certain type of pages that are showcased there more often, or for queries that you will have considered to be very commercial, and you will target with categories, products, listings. You see that it is more informational content, the one showcased there to give a summary about, or an overview about it, then potentially you should give a little bit of more weight to informational content too. And of course, it's all about the semantics of it, structured data, and becoming, let's say, a little bit the destination about your particular topic. So there's no way for Google to, let's say, avoid showing you when someone is searching for a certain type of topic where you are the let's say the leader of, or the ones that is the prominent type of authority in it.
That's an interesting point, because when I interviewed Kathy Edwards from Google, who was the person who announced SGE at I/O last year, whatever the conference was when they announced Google SGE, and she basically told me that that what would rank in the SGE snapshots and those links would be the stuff that ranks currently today, like the authority, expert level, and all that EAT stuff that ranks now. And that's not been the case from what I've been watching on Twitter and people sharing examples. We've been seeing some really low quality websites sometimes surface, some like really, scraper types of websites surface, but that probably will change. I would suggest. It's not always the case. And I think Garrett Sussman in the chat also mentioned, getting in the Google Shopping Graph, super important, because you see all those product listings like you mentioned, Aleyda, and also Google Business Profiles, get those local listings. So kind of a lot of it's duplicate to what's shown both below, but those are some ways to get your content in those areas if Google's not going to rank what it currently ranks. But again, it speaks to me all the time. It's content. Make sure you have great content so that Google has something to consume, so they could go ahead and put it in the AI overviews so that people could read it and not click on your results.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I think there's still a continued like a lot of discussion that's going around surrounding the concept of a redundancy between what SGE is hoping to achieve and featured snippets. And to everybody's points here, I think the thing that kind of shows up quite frequently is this idea of term or entity co-occurrence. I think that Cindy Crum puts it very well in what she's described as fraggles, but essentially when there is consensus built around particular queries and the relationship of those queries with other entities, we have seen featured snippets be produced. In some ways, SGE is essentially this like larger voting machine where if everybody says best email marketing software, MailChimp, then those essentially get correlated in Google's understanding of best email marketing and MailChimp being a software, which I think brings us to an interesting concept that has been popular lately, which is information gain. So I'm going to go there because I think that information gain is a very interesting concept that, you know, Bill Slawski, the late Bill Slawski, really brought to light. And how do we think that information gain works? First of all, I'm going to ask like the group, what do you think information gain is to start? Because I think there's still a lot of confusion about it. And I'll start there. And I think that Barry, like, let's kick it off with you.
Oh, I hate these buzzwords. What is information gain? I don't know. There's so many different technical answers depending on what industry you're in. You know, what one person meant for it in SEO. I mean, I could assume it means like, this is the content that you're writing, is the information that you're writing going to gain? Anybody going to gain from that information? Like, are they going to get some any benefit from it? And you can call it whatever you want. You know, it's the whole thing around the helpful content. How helpful is this content? Are users happy with the content? Are they walking away with the answers that they expected? So I think that's how you would determine or define it. But I mean, anybody can give any type of definition to these terms if they want to.
Yeah, and in simple terms, I will say it's like what is unique on the information that you provide with your own content that expands or connects or complements well with whatever is already shown in the SERPs. And I believe it is particularly important because whenever we're doing a little bit of competition research, and this is something that we tend to do when you at the beginning of the SEO process, especially the keyword research, competition research, etc. And we take a look at search results, which are the pages that are ranking at the moment. And if we see that there are 10 category pages ranking for a certain query, we'll try to replicate that. And we say, okay, there are 10 category pages ranking for red jeans for women. So let's create yet another one that is better than these ones here, more comprehensive, more information. Yes, great. But if it only sort of covers the same topics or offers the same thing, more of the same, let's say, it doesn't offer something unique, something additional that will make it stand out, that will provide a unique selling proposition. So that is where I will believe that information gain come from. And many times we'd say it in different ways. So in the same examples, we can see how Google many times will blend the results. And there are not only category pages, or very unlikely now, it's much more blended, but there will be a couple of guides, and there will be Reddit thread. It will be a different type of pages that will better fulfill and will provide a much more comprehensive 360 view of that particular topic. And then, of course, we can do it so even with the same content that we already have. If it is certainly a commercial or a transactional query that deserves this sort of content, what else we can add and we can feature in this page that will help us to provide additional insights, qualitative that are qualitatively different or better or unique, that will provide a better user experience and will make us stand out in these results and make ourselves the best in class answer for that query.
I can add my thoughts. So I think that it's relevant uniqueness. And the way to think about it is you converge and diverge. So converge is to be comprehensive, and then diverge is to be unique. So Google wants you to be comprehensive and cover everything that the users had questions about. So if you're ranking for 100 different keywords, are you mentioning them? If you have an article about butter lettuce recipes and you're ranking for health benefits for butter lettuce, my WeWork just went out. Did you cover health benefits or did you not cover health benefits? So it's comprehensiveness, number one, and then there's relevant comprehensiveness. So let's say that on my butter lettuce article, I started talking about digital cameras. That would be unique. Nobody else on their butter lettuce article is talking about digital cameras, but it's not relevant. So I think that Google has a sense for things that are close in a semantic graph that are relevant and close to each other. And then presence of those unique things on your page is relevant uniqueness. There's also expertise and personal experience. So I think mentions of personal experience, first person pronouns, mentions of, I forget if we did or somebody else did a quick anecdotal study, but mentions of a snippet from an expert who you interviewed and added to the article, which then gives you a unique perspective. I think it's that kind of stuff. So relevant uniqueness and personal experience and expertise inclusions. I'm going to turn the lights back on.
Yeah. So, I think this is treading into the territories of helpful content updates, obviously the rise of discussion boards like Reddit and Quora. But before I get into all of that, I did want to do some rapid fire in terms of everything surrounding SGE from the audience. So I'm going to dole these out. Garrett Sussman asks, do you think non-SEOs will use it? And do you think that Google will ultimately try this premium model that the Financial Times wrote about? Barry, I'm going to pass this one to you. What do you think?
Probably use it. They probably just see the answer and just go with it. I don't know. I mean, I think they're testing it right now with people who don't opt in. So time will tell. I mean, Google has to experiment with people who are saying, people who don't necessarily want to see it. They're going to see it now, and we'll see what happens with what they are seeing. But I do think they'll use it just like they use feature snippets. Watching your children use Google search is very fascinating. So I recommend you do that. And then in terms of Financial Times, I don't think that will happen. I don't think they will launch a paid version of Google search, but I've been wrong a lot. I thought Microsoft would totally destroy Google back in 2005 and take over market share because of many reasons, and I was completely wrong. So never listen to me.
All right. Roman asks.
I believe that if at some point they actually decide to go ahead because it is expensive for them to run and make it a paid option, let's say, that also compensates somewhat somehow the fact that if they have identified that people won't be clicking so much on ads, right? Then we can be certain that the penetration of it will be very, very low because people hate to pay for stuff like that online, and it's the reality, right? Like we can see it directly with the number of people who pay for ChatGPT even, or the number of SEOs who are always trying to work around to not pay for certain of tools that actually we are using for work and are useful and productive for that, right? So if they end up going with the paid path, let's say, then we can assume that the adoption will be super low, right? That is why I saw it was very funny when they actually published that story about, they are even considering or making it a paid feature. A lot of SEOs, me included, I reshare it saying, okay, let's hope this is the case, because this will literally just kill any sort of disruption that can happen by the massive adoption of it, right?
Absolutely. Yes, which brings us to an interesting question that Roman asks, and I'm going to give this one to you, Aleyda. Google itself is not going to lose everything because of search, but in your opinion, if Google search drops significantly, what search engine is going to take its place? Aleyda, what do you think?
So I this is interesting because I have always mentioned when I have been asked this question that it should be something that is qualitative different, that changes the way that we search, something that is much more predictive. And Google has even disclosed about the goals in the future that they look into search. But I have to say something, right? It really took my attention in the last few months when people were sharing some stats and insights regarding more younger users going to social platforms for discovery, like TikTok, for example. And then a lot of people say, oh, that is not a search engine. But people are using that platform to search for information at a discovery level, the information level. And more, these platforms are releasing features that allows them to buy directly there, merchant-related features too, that a lot of people say, oh, they are becoming even like a sort of, they want to become a sort of like a competitor of Amazon of sorts too. So it might not be necessarily purely a search engine, the one that will become a real threat for Google monopoly. It should be something that it should be very visual too and easy to allow users and to access all of the sort of information and insights that Google provides directly. And potentially this is why in the case of LLMs and ChatGPT, they haven't completely been able to do that, because it's great for certain scenarios, for certain type of queries, but not for the full customer journey, let's say. So I will say that we are not yet there. We cannot say this player is ChatGPT or is Perplexity or is the platform that will be able to fulfill the same needs, discovery, search needs through the whole customer journey that Google is right now able to provide. And in a completely different but much easier to use way. It's predictive, maybe. It's with a layer of authenticity, first person, like the one that social platforms can provide, and Google cannot, or is not able to yet, at least, right? So I believe that it might be even a blend of it. Many different players, at the end of the day, generating an erosion of the monopoly that Google has, because they haven't been able to keep up, and people have become much more sophisticated and mature and specialized in the way that they search. So it might not necessarily be only one, right? But yes, there's that. I believe that we're not yet necessarily there. I cannot point of like this is the single player, but we have seen already some peaks on that, on certain share of users using now social platforms because of how different it is and how it fulfills a need in a different way, and the usage of LLMs for other scenarios, because it's better fulfilling in another different ways for other type of queries.
Yeah, I think the cannibalization of Google searches is ever present, right? And I think you're seeing different specialized ecosystems take on different classes of queries. So I think that that's a very apt answer. One last question around SGE, and then I'm going to switch it over to March Core, March Spam, helpful content. This one is for you, Ethan. Sunny asks, do you think brand building will impact your ability to show in SGE, combining SEO with brand marketing?
I'm not sure, but I'll try to answer. So I think that brand building builds authority generally. And by authority, I mean brand search, backlinks, mentions. And that probably will, since that's a key part of the authority algorithm, I think it's probably would be part of the part of SGE. But the other thing is what we were talking about before, which is brand building via mentions and earned SEO. So how many times did you show up in listicles, lists? How many times did somebody mention your brand in co-occurring with a search term use case that you want to rank for? So I think it's that specific type of, I don't know if I'd call that brand building, but the brand building direct impact, I think, will be the impact that you already have right now on authority, which is brand search, backlinks, shares, mentions.
Perfect answer. We'll see how it all ends up shaking out. So Switching gears to March core and spam, I think this is a very common sentiment amongst the community. And it goes something like this. I have a client or a website that is a well-aged brand and domain. We write exceptional content. We have all of our schema, page optimization dialed in. Page speed is good. We're trimming underperforming content, aka content pruning. And my site or client is rapidly losing traffic over March. They do have some pretty aggressive ads, but for sites that have seen recent traffic declines, specifically centered around the March update, what are y'all seeing in terms of ways to recover sites that have been penalized by recent updates? Aleyda, I'm gonna start with you.
So this is really interesting because for me, it's always quite weird to see what SEO Twitter or LinkedIn's Twitter says and the mismatch there, and then what social media says and what I see with my own clients and my own websites, right? So on one hand, I did this poll. It was yesterday or the day before, I believe. Thank you, Barry. You retweeted. So I asked, oh, have you been hit by the latest update or so far? It is positive, negative, or nothing. And in Twitter, most of the answers were yes, I have been hit negatively. And when asking for about the same question in LinkedIn, it was like, no, I haven't been hit. And then the second is like positive, like slightly higher than negative. But in most cases, I haven't been hit. And then in my own case, with my own clients, I usually work with whether e-commerce, marketplaces, or SaaS. I don't work with publications or affiliate-driven or ads-driven websites as the main way of monetization, right? So I think that makes the whole difference here, because one of the key aspects of the Google helpful content update back in the day when they released it for the first time is that they were clear about, oh, we don't want content that is made for search engines purely. We want content that is made for users. And of course, if you weigh or the model that you have to monetize, to make money is ads or affiliates, it's like, oh, you're the middleman. What is your unique selling proposition? What is it really not just for search? Is it really for users? So Google might have a harder time, let's say, to identify that, to isolate patterns, let's say, or establish patterns that will be able to tackle those sites that are actually spammy, that are actually manipulating their way into top results, have very aggressive ads, and have a lot of affiliate, and have a bad user experience, and thin content or duplicate content or AI content, etc. And those that are also affiliates and have ads as a monetization channel, but they are actually good, and they are actually specialists, and they actually test the products, and they actually have unique expert content that have first-hand experience, right? So there is where it lays out, I believe, with my e-commerce clients, with my SaaS clients, actual brands selling physical products many times. I haven't seen an issue. I have one client that is actually informational focused, but is a very important persona, let's say, an authority, has millions, and before investing in search in Google, it had already millions of views and subscribers in YouTube, for example. So it is a real brand, and the person actually sells their own products, right? It's not affiliates. There are no ads in the website. Very informational, but yes, it has an online store. So I believe that there is where it lays the issue, right? Like how the accuracy, let's say, and how sophisticated Google has been able to be in order to refine that. But there's definitely a target from what I can see. There's a clear pattern here of what are the type of websites that are being hit the most or actually suffering. In some cases, in a way that is reasonable. In other cases, no. This is actually a good website that just happens to be an affiliate or showcasing ads, but their content is top notch, is expert, is driven, is a real experience, and provides value for actual customers, potential customers and users, right?
Yes. Yes, Barry. What are your thoughts?
All right. So obviously we have the March core update starting on March 5th. It's still rolling out. We're well into week 5. We expect it to be 3 or 4 week rollout period. It's well beyond that timeline. This has to go back to the September 2023 helpful content update. A lot of those sites that were hit, and that was the first. So it's funny. So when Google announced the helpful content update back in 2022, Google made a big deal of it. It's going to really impact a lot of sites. It's going to hurt a lot of sites that were building content for ranking purposes, for manipulating Google search results, for people building content just to rank. That didn't happen until September 2023. When that happened, it really wiped a bunch of SEO'd content off the planet. And then we're just waiting. Okay, we're going to improve our websites. We'll make sure it's built for users, not for search engines. And then this core update came out when Google said, well, the helpful content update is no longer. Helpfulness is part of the overall, it's one of the many signals and systems in the overall Google core update. Not one website that I saw with evidence showed me that they recovered with this core update yet that were hit by the September 2023 helpful content update. We have seen sites recover that were hit by previous core updates with this March core update, but we haven't seen any sites recover from the September 2023 helpful content update. It's not done yet. Maybe Google's going to push something out related to helpfulness at the tail end of this release. But right now, we haven't really seen anything related to that. So that's the biggest concern right now. Aleyda's definitely correct that a lot of these sites that were hit by the September helpful content update and not recovered yet, as well as any sites that saw another decline. A lot of these sites that were hit by this helpful content update in September saw another decline with this March core update. And a lot of those sites are affiliate-driven content, people who built blogs and content sites, generally just for making content that people will click on ads for. And I do agree with that. But I think we're not done with this update yet. It doesn't look good. It does not look good for those sites that were hit by previous core and helpful content updates. What do you need to do to recover? I don't know. You got to stop thinking about Google. You got to start really thinking about how could you be better than everybody else? And honestly, when I write content, I don't look at anybody else. I'm writing content that I think my users want to hear. I never look at the competition. Does that make it better? Does it make me better than other people? Probably not. But funny, once I got hit by a core update or maybe a Panda update, I forgot what it was, and I was talking to a Googler. He's like, you don't care anyway. Your brand, no matter what, your brand building, no matter what, people are going to your website with or without us. And ultimately, Google adjusted things because they're like, why is Search Engine Roundtable not ranking? It should rank because that's what people want to go to for some part. And obviously, they want to go to Search Engine Land and other sites as well. But it's one of the more respected places, I hope. I mean, maybe not. I don't know. So Google will adjust things, but you kind of have to keep building stuff for your users. And Google, you want to make sure that Google's embarrassed when they're not ranking your website. The only way to do that is not by sticking a bunch of affiliate stuff there and building content that you think your users, that you think search engines want. You want to build content that your users really want to read.
So this is fun, interesting what you just mentioned, right? Because we have seen a lot of reactions from SEO saying, "Oh, I am doing this, let's say, tactic that is against certain best practices or guidelines that Google have provided, but this big brand is doing it anyway and ranking even better than before." Yes, they are able, and this has been always the case in SEO, I'm afraid. They are able to get away with it because, yes, they're a big brand. Google cannot just rank it, and they have a lot of other things that make them a compelling player, an important and authoritative player in their sector, for which Google will continue ranking them despite that, because of the alignment of all of these other factors that you don't have. So unfortunately, a small player cannot put themselves in the same position as these other much more prominent ones.
These are all fantastic thoughts. I think one of the core themes, at least that was made more public, I know Google's stance on AI has been, don't do it. Okay, do it as long as it's helpful for users. Now it's, kind of like, don't do it. So what are y'all's thoughts about AI generated content? Do we have any insights how Google might be identifying AI generated content? When is it okay? When is it not okay? Ethan, this one is for you to start.
Great. Yeah, we're actually finishing a study on this. So I think that AI assisted content is the future of content, and AI content, 100% AI content will not be part of, will not perform well. And the reason why is because if 100% AI content ranks, then everyone will do it. And Google will just be a search engine for chatbot responses, which means that it's not a useful search engine. That's what I think will happen. What I also think happened is that they already have an AI detector and they're using it. And the reason why I say that is we are finishing up a study where we looked at thousands of URLs that are ranking. We took a representative sample across a bunch of different categories. We used originality.ai for AI detection, which isn't perfect, but there's a bunch of AI detectors and they're all fairly accurate. Not that hard actually to build an AI detector. So anyway, we looked at that and we saw pretty clear patterns where less than 15% of the URLs ranking on Google are large amounts of AI content. And then we also saw some pretty clear patterns where human content did better than AI content. We did see some interesting patterns where news and finance had a higher amount of AI content than other categories, and food had the lowest amount. So I do think that there are some categories where you can have objectively useful AI content, like summarizing a stock or summarizing a sporting event where you don't really need a unique perspective. But my general opinion is that if 100% AI content performs well, everyone will do it. Google will be a search engine for chatbot responses, and then it removes the purpose for Google to exist. So I think that Google will take a hard line, even against useful AI content, for that reason.
It's a good question. I mean, yeah, I do agree, but Google is in this weird spot where everything they're doing now is AI, and they're selling AI tools, and they want people to use AI because that's the future, and they're going to make money on AI. And they can't say AI is bad because everything they're doing is AI. Their PMAX stuff, their Google ad generation tools, their Gmail generating content for you to help you write content, their Google Docs tools. Everything is AI, and Google can't say you can't use AI because they want you to use AI because that's where they're going to make their money in the future. So it's kind of in this weird position where they love AI, but they know AI is going to ruin their search engine. And what do? Merchant Center, Google Merchant Center is the only place right now that I know of at Google that now requires you to label AI generated content and images. I think Google Image Search wants you to as well. Not Google Image Search, just images in general. But Google Merchant Center is only asking a special policy saying you have to label images and other content that are generated using AI, which is interesting. And nobody else at Google has that policy yet. I think it would be great if Google went across the board and said that's what you have to do, just label it as AI so we know. But Google's in this weird position. I agree. I think it would ultimately kill them if they just allowed AI just to like do everything. But at one point, AI might be better than all of us. I don't see why AI can't do what I do every day. John Mueller said this. Danny Sullivan said that. Trump said this. Biden said this. I don't see why it can't do that and add some entertainment factor into it. But we'll see. They're in this just weird position.
I believe that
Sorry.
We have to differentiate though. One thing is to produce content completely by AI, and another thing is to leverage AI in our SEO content creation optimization workflow, right? I believe that we shouldn't lose the goal here from sight. That is like, yes, we want to leverage these functionalities to accelerate the process while not harming quality and while not, let's say, eliminating those characteristics that make our content unique, insightful, helpful, authoritative, etc. Right? And for that, at this point, it will still need this human layer, editorial layer, validation layer, insights, etc., right? It was very obvious, and with the spam update, right, that a lot of purely automated of AI content generated on autopilot websites went to hell, literally. Like they stopped ranking from one day or another. They were not even indexed anymore. This was so obvious, like hundreds of thousands of content programmatically generated from one day to another in rather new domains in most cases. So the pattern was so obvious, right? So I believe that there's a blend here, or you can take a blended or a gray area type of approach, leveraging a good part of these features that can allow you to advance better while not harming and falling into the trap of automating everything and living on autopilot and creating content that actually doesn't make sense to have, right? Unfortunately, this approach of, create the content on autopilot and see what sticks, and when you get in the top 20 of so whatever is when you will start optimizing a little bit more, like this type of tactics that you see around, unfortunately. This is what will end up harming you right now, right? Like in the future also, this has been also a point made by many people already. If a lot of the content will be automated anyway and will be taken by AI, and in the next following years, like it will become much better, right? What will make yours unique, right? Like you cannot fall into, again, that path of what is your differentiation. And very likely to add that differentiation is to make your content human, or had this, or at least leave this human layer into it.
Ethan, were you going to add something?
Nope.
No.
Next. No, I'm ready for the next question.
Next question. Well, we are coming up. Time flies when we're all nerding out about SEO. So I'm going to leave it with a question for all of you, to our live audience and those who will eventually watch the recording. What are your 1 or 2 takeaways that you would like to impart on modern SEO practitioners? Barry?
I guess the biggest thing is a lot of new SEO practitioners always think about what's the checklist that I have to follow to do my job. It used to be like, all right, get links, produce a minimal amount of content, and make sure your page is crawlable. Those are the basics. I think it's now about, thinking well beyond that, and making content that really does, I know it's corny to say, that really does satisfy the user's intent and gives the user something that they could use beyond what everything else is out there. So it's not just a checklist anymore, and it's harder, and it's much harder than it was back in the early 2000s. But SEO, SEOs are really great at adapting, and just keep working at it, and I think you'll be great in the future.
I love that takeaway. I literally have a screenshot where it was like the thread with someone asking John Mueller if they needed to add a contact page because that was like correlated with better performance, and you were like, what are we doing here? Like, what? This seems so roundabout.
If you ask your question, if you ask yourself that question, if it's like, are you a real business? That is the thing, right? If you're a real business, I mean, you won't even care if at some point we will say that it's not needed, or is against even. Like, it won't happen because they want what is good for users anyway. But how you can double question the need of having a contact form is like, how your customers are going to get in touch with you. So that is the problem, like with a one-trick pony, a very tactical approach of not thinking on how a business will think, I will say.
Yeah. Aleyda, so on to you. What are the words of wisdom that we should all abide by in today's world of SEO?
Focus on what will move the needle of your business, and stop focusing on, because I see that, fluctuations. So it's like, is it actually impacting your actual traffic in any way, your meaningful traffic, the one that moves the needle from a business standpoint, yes or no? think on the way that your users behave, how they search, how they look for information, what they actually need to solve, and how you can make it easier for them to solve it, how you can surface the right information on your website to connect better with them, and focus on that, a blend of technical content, user experience, integrating that into your product so it can make it easier for you to scale all of it. So yeah, it's about being cost efficient and focusing on what actually matters and impact your customer journey for the type of products or services that you actually want to sell and grow with.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think sometimes we can get lost with like the tail wagging the dog, right? Where we're like, wow, like get more traffic. And it's like, but ultimately to do more business, sell more services, sell more products. So definitely a good reminder to not focus on SEO for the sake of SEO. Ethan, what are your last remarks for the group?
My last remarks are that the things that work today and a year from now are pretty similar to the stuff that's been working for the last several years. I don't think it'll change that much. So selecting topics rather than keywords, selecting topics where you have topical authority and building your topical authority, having content that's both comprehensive and unique with information gain, and then having good engagement. And then to Barry's point, can Google read the page and are you cross-linking? Those are the things that have been working for the last several years, and I think that they'll mostly be what will work over the next several years.
Fantastic. Just do what has been working. Recognize that, Google has rapidly evolved away from technical SEO links keywords. We are in a more topic-centric model that prioritizes topical authority, link relevancy, and user interaction. So focus on what is entertaining, engaging to the user, and you'll likely continue to do well, whether it be AI assisted or completely human generated. Thank you all so much. Our panelists, this was a fantastic discussion. I learned a ton about SGE, implications, AI, and I'm sure our audience did the same. And yes, thank you, audience, for tuning in. This was hopefully a fantastic discussion, and join us next time for some more awesome information surrounding SEO.